Hello BookTube, this is part 28 of my 2022 library tour, part 5 of science fiction and fantasy, the second half of my library tour, because I have more science fiction and fantasy than anything else. Although, some of these videos make me wonder why exactly I have as much science fiction fantasy as I have, and this video is going to be an excellent example of that, because there are quite a few stinkers on this shelf. So let's get started. The first book is The Adamantine Palace, The Memory of Flames, Book 1 by Stephen Diaz. I don't quite remember why I have this. I'm thinking I must have read a review or an article about Stephen Diaz in either Blackgate or science fiction and fantasy focused booktuber extolled him and got me interested in reading his work, although I haven't gotten around to it yet. The next three are works by Samuel R. Delany. The first is Traitor. This is his one of his space opera novels that I had to go at, I think, for the 2020 Space Opera September readathon. I picked it up ages ago at the Friends of the Library book sale nook, which was, I was quite pleased to see it because a lot of the books there are poop, but quite happy to see this, although I haven't gotten into it yet. I did bail on it. Next is another book by Samuel R. Delany. This is Dahlgren, his great post-apocalyptic novel set in a ruined city. I picked this up from either the bookstore at San Francisco State University or a different night. I don't quite remember which. I read this, it's been about over 10 years ago and didn't make it too far before I bailed, but I do want to come back to it eventually. The last book by Samuel R. Delany I have is The Fall of the Towers, which again I picked up from the Friends of the Library book sale nook. This is a compilation or omnibus of Out of the Dead City, The Towers of Toron, and City of a Thousand Suns, which I don't know much about. I haven't dipped into it yet. Next is Pursuit of the Screamer by Anson Dibble, which I don't know much about. I saw it at the Friends of the Library book sale nook, and since it is only 25 cents, I picked it up. Because, I mean, for 25 cents, you could, yeah, any attention to quality goes out the window for 25 cents. And next is The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. This is his famous alternate history novel in which the Axis won World War II. The Nazis occupy the eastern coast of the United States and the Japanese the western coast. I picked this up for my birthday about 10-12 years ago when there was Books A Million in Waco, which was here quite briefly. I think it eventually shut down. Oh, no, quite what took over the space though. But anyway, so I had to go at it and didn't particularly care for it. Next is one of the books that I really don't particularly care for, and one of which I will possibly be rather spicy talking about. This is The Traitor, Barry Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. This is a fantasy series in which a young woman from a newly conquered country within this empire is appointed effectively treasurer to a country that is in the process of being conquered, of being annexed by this imperialistic power. And as she does her job, she becomes political. She sort of foments rebellion and conflict with the intention of eventually freeing her home island. I hated this book. I just all of my I hated this book. The character is far too young for the position she gets, which I suspect has probably reasons for. And it just, I hated this book from start to finish. I wish I had bailed on it. Those a few days of my life I am never going to get back. And obviously I do not have any of the sequels. Although that said, the Traitor, that series, starting with the Traitor Barrett Cormorant, is rather popular, and a lot of booktubers do sing its praises, including Steve Donahue. So take my disdain and my hate for the book with, it's me. The next book is Silent Hall by N.S. Dolkart, which I picked up about 4 years ago, or about 4 years ago, or maybe 3, through Barnes & Noble. I think it was either a birthday or Christmas. And I picked it up because it was, I think, talked about in Blackgate. And I was rather interested, in the story kind of sounds fascinating, although, again, I haven't gotten to it yet. And next we come to 3 more books I hate, of which only one of, so the first 2 are the first 2 books in the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever series by Stephen R. Donaldson. This is Lord of Hell's Bane, which I picked up from the Friends of the Library book sale, the fiction section part of it. And I picked it up in part because the last 6 months of, I think, 2019, number of booktubers were going to read the first 6 books of the expanded the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever series, as well as Dune, as sort of a reading of it, and I wanted to participate, I think, before I started BookTube. And so, I have a few of the Dune books, but I had none of the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. And so I picked this one up, and the second book, The Ill-Earth War, which I either picked up from Golden's or I bought from Amazon, I don't know which. But I started with this book, and I hated it. It is just, it's just, there's one infamous scene in here that completely ruins the book. But even before then, this book was just horrifically bad. And I don't remember if after I finished this, I decided to just drop out of the reading event, or if I actually started this, I don't remember. But yeah, no. Just no. They're crap. And the third book I don't particularly like, and well, actually it's, Anyway, so the next book I don't like from this shelf is Amberlow by Laura Elena Donnelly. This is I guess you could call it a fantasy, even though there's no magic. It's inspired by Weimar Germany, on the cusp of the Nazi takeover. And it's sort of split between 3 point of view characters: a cabaret singer, crime lord who acts as sort of a cabaret MC and a secret agent who initially is sort of dating the MC crime lord to kind of bring said crime lord down, but his duties sort of expands to trying to fight the rising Nazi XB thing. And while I kind of liked the cabaret, demi-monde, underworld, that part of the story, when the story turned more fully to the political thriller, it just went to hell in a handbasket. It sucked. I mean, that particular main protagonist was doing stupid things because the plot needed him to do stupid things, which was incredibly stupid because the villains are inordinately stupid. It's just, yeah. So I really did not like this book. In compounding matters, as if I did want to get rid of this book, which I do, unfortunately, this is the only hardcover in the series. It's a trilogy, and the second and third books were released as paperback originals, not an original hardcover, so I don't know what to do with this. Anyway, next is The Prey of Gods by Nikki Drayton. This is a near future fantasy set in South Africa in which sort of cyberpunk meets urban fantasy, and I quite liked it. It has some very interesting moments. So yeah, it's been a while since I've read it, but I kind of do want to revisit it and maybe pick up some more of Nikki Drayton's work. Next is a rather famous work of fantasy literature. This is The Door into Fire by Diane Duane. That I picked up, I think, from Golden's, or maybe the Friends of the Library Book or something. I don't know. But it is a rather important work of fantasy from the 70s or 80s that I haven't gotten around to yet, but I want to. Next is Vellum, the first book in the Book of All Hours by Hal Duncan. I first encountered Hal Duncan either, I want to say at the Linen's Tomb blog, but it could have been somewhere else. And then I kind of discovered his blog and really sort of enjoyed his blogs, and eventually checked out some of his work, including Vellum, although when I did, I didn't particularly care for it. And then I saw this copy at Golden's Book Exchange years ago and picked it up because I did not expect to see this at Golden's Book Exchange. Next is a Mammoth, The Forgetting Moon. I'm assuming part one of the 5 Warrior Angels by Brian Lee Durfee, which don't quite remember what attracted me to the book, but I was attracted to it, and eventually I bought this used copy, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Which I will not be doing for March of the Mammoths because I'm going to be reading Maria Teresa this year. The next 2 books are by Sarah Beth Durst. This is Race to the Sands, which I picked up last year. It's about in Red last year, it's about a trainer who trains riders for races they race these chimerical monsters. And the riders get fame and fortune. The monsters get a chance at reincarnation because this is a world in which everybody is reincarnated. And the main character, in order to help pay for her daughter's education and to remain home with her rather than having to board at the school of magic that she goes to, has to win these races. And she's joined by a young woman seeking freedom from her family. So she becomes a racer to or a jockey to win her freedom from her family. And also there's the young king of this country, who's investigating the death of his predecessor. I mean, it's quite good. I didn't necessarily love it, but it is a rather good fantasy. Next is The Bone Maker, again by Sarah Beth Durst. This is her most recent work, unless she's got something coming out this year. It's basically one of those novels that deals with the end of an epic conflict and sort of the burgeoning conflict that comes after that. And I didn't really make much progress. I did bail on this one, but I think if I did come back to it, maybe I'll have a better luck with it. I don't know. Next is a book that I actually really did enjoy reading. This is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. This is an insane epic fantasy that takes as its conceit comparing the five-man band of epic fantasy with actual bands. So in this world, mercenaries who have the status of rock stars go basically do various jobs. They go clear out monsters and stuff. And so the story is about this band called, I think, Saga, who were famous in their day when the leader of the group kind of gets the band back together so that they can go and try to rescue his daughter from a horde of monsters attacking a city on the far side of this continent. It's a hoot. I love this novel. Absolutely loved it. Which is rather sad because I didn't quite get on as well with Bloody Rhodes, again by Nicholas Eames. This is the sequel. This novel features on the daughter, the young woman who was in the city defending it from the monster horde, and her band of mercenaries. So in this, the sequel, basically her band, I think it's Fable. It's been a while since I've read it. They're basically going on tour while everyone else is getting ready for yet another horde attack. And so as they kind of journey on this quest, this tour quest, it ends up being vitally important to the burgeoning horde thing. It's the first 150 pages I don't particularly care for, but after the first arc or act, it really gets good. But that first 150 pages are a bit rough for a number of reasons. I think part of it is that the narrator in this book, who is different from Kings of the Wild, she's a newbie. She's sort of being introduced to this world. And in a way, that would have worked, I think, for a first book. But for a second book, it's like, I mean, if you've read the first book, you're like, you don't need this introduction. And I think, so yeah, just the first 150 pages are incredibly rough. But after that, it does really pick up. And the last two books of this shelf are by David Eddings. This is The Ruby Knight, Book 2 of the Elenium, and The Sapphire Rose, Book 3 of the Elenium. So the Elenium trilogy, of which I don't have the Diamond Throne, is is the first trilogy in a 2-trilogy series, which we'll see tomorrow, because it'll be the first book in the Tamuli will be showcased, will be the Vanguard for tomorrow's tour. So in the Elenium, the Queen of Elenia is poisoned, and to save her life, she's encased in diamond, hence the Diamond Throne. To cure her, a number of magical knights led by Sparhawk go in search of a magical artifact that would be able to cure her. So they basically adventure around these countries to sort of find allies, find where this item is, and all that stuff. And then once the queen is cured, then they go on to fight an invasion from a Dark Lord. And I read these when I was a teenager, and I quite liked them when I was younger. Although I did get rid of them in my late teens or early 20s, and then I eventually picked these back up, I think from the Friends of the Library Book Sale Nook. I think I kind of saw all of them at one point or another. So yeah, I've been thinking about picking up like the Diamond Throne and rereading these at some point, and then continuing on with the Tamuli, but I don't know. We shall see. So that concludes part 28 of my 2022 library tour, and of course part 5 of science fiction and fantasy. So I will be back tomorrow with part 29, and of course part 6 of science fiction and fantasy. So until then, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.